I spotted the little side road to come down through Luddenham for two reasons. I had a box of cans and bottles from work in the back of the truck that I've been in there for days. When I looked up if there was going to be somewhere along the way, rather than going right out of my way, it said that there was one at the Luddenham Ampol. It's a gas station. Second benefit of that was I got to take a toilet stop. I asked the girl behind the counter, how long ago was it that the bypass actually bypassed Luddenham? She didn't know, and as I was asking, I realised like this girl working behind the counter, probably born around the last time I drove out this way. As far as I know, the bypass has always been there for her. Just turning off that little section of the road, looping down the old Northern Road through Luddenham, a lot less traffic. The way that this new road has been built, if I had to work down that way and it wasn't far off these roads, I think it'd be a more comfortable commute than the one I've got. I mean, the school I'm going to, it's about 10 kilometres further in distance from our house than my current school is. It took an hour just to do the drive, but the drive is just like this. Cruise down the highway, onto the freeway, get onto this Northern Road. The way it is now, you could almost call it the Northern Highway. It's just such a smooth cruise. Yes, there's traffic lights along the way, but if you're lucky and get them all green, which hadn't been too bad today. When I used to drive this way, because it was like this, even though it was not as wide and smooth then, just that long smooth cruise, loads of kangaroos. The long smooth cruise is really easy on your car. Just cruising along at 80, not having to be in stop start traffic, saves your brakes, saves the wear and tear on your vehicle. The car I had back then, before I got my Suzuki, when I traded it in with 90,000 Ks on the clock, it was still on the original tyres and the original brakes, and still had a lot of tread on the tyres because all it did was cruise. There was no real hard driving, hard turning, and that's why my Suzuki got up to over 400,000 Ks and was running well, because the start of its life was driving along this sort of thing. It's certainly being developed up along here in prep for the airport. I've noticed quite a few more mobile phone towers like the one I'm passing now. By the look of it, that's there because of new housing estates that are being built in that way. A lot of change. It's Sunday afternoon. Just finished day 3 of our advanced intensive choice theory. It's very heavy going doing this sort of stuff over the weekend. 5 days of work left, one more day of this, which is going to be full on again, and then 4 days of work. I'm finding it really beneficial. I don't know whether I want to say that I should have done it sooner. I probably should have done it sooner. I think when I was first offered it, at that point I just didn't want to dive any deeper at that right then, but it might have been a lot better to have done it that way. I'm kind of re-seeing things and relearning some concepts. Now they're being applied towards lead management rather than student management. How would you as a leader incorporate choice theory in the way that you lead manage your staff? The first couple of days have been the counselling side of it. Today was the first time we did a bit of the lead management. We're going to focus more on that tomorrow. Driving along the Northern Road now feels incredibly foreign. The intersection between the Northern Road and Bringelly Road, which was an intersection that I went through for years, used to be this tiny little intersection. Now it's got this major overpass built onto it. The Northern Road travels through nice and clear. Bringelly Road sort of flies over the top of it and enters in just like a freeway. And so when you come down onto this with its 2 lanes in both directions, it looks a lot like sections of the M7. The M7's speed limit is 100 and the speed limit along here is only 80. And you just feel like you're going so slow, especially if you've just come off the M4, which is 110. And this morning, on the first section of the Northern Road after the M4, there were 2 police cars sitting on the side of the road. This Mercedes dual cab ute came zipping down past me on the inside lane and then hit the brakes fairly hard because it saw the 2 cops. And then the lights ahead of us turned red. So we're both braking for the lights. And one of the cars pulled out and sat behind the Mercedes next to me. And when the light went green, as soon as it went green, we started driving through it. On went their lights and they pulled him over. From that point, I set my cruise control to the speed limit and let my cruise control drive me along the Northern Road, which was a good thing because they had another police car set up several k's along as another trap, speed trap. Definitely feels like you're driving way too slow. You can just sit here with the cruise control on, take in a little bit of the scenery around you of the rolling farmland, because to be perfectly honest, how long will this stay as rolling farmland? Suburbia will begin to creep out this way along here as well. The weather's been quite chilly today. Perfect in terms of sunshine, which makes you kind of go, sucks to have missed a weekend at home. Just finished double with Year 11, the split double. They've cleaned up all right. There's a little bit of sawdust around, but they've cleaned up all right. However, we've got two toolboxes complete. That's mine in the background. I think they worked well. There was only 6 here, but they're working very independently as well as very cooperatively, which is great. They just come to me with a few questions. Pretty happy with where they're going. Hopefully they'll complete this unit at the end of the term on time, because they're working very independently. I've just got to pack up now and go back up to the office. This is when the school looks peaceful. Just finished with Year 12. They're very keen, they're working well. They've worked half an hour past the lesson. They did get quite a bit done. Good morning. It's Thursday morning. Special day at school today because we're having our NAIDOC celebrations. I won't try and remember what NAIDOC stands for because I know I will mess it up. NAIDOC ceremonies celebrate Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people of the country, their history, their input, their languages, their culture. And our school has about a 25-27% Indigenous or Aboriginal population. Our highest cultural group is Pacifica, so all of the Pacific Islander nations. To have an Aboriginal population of more than a quarter of your school is pretty significant, especially for a Sydney school. I believe that our school is one of the highest, if not the highest, Aboriginal population in the school. And the number of staff that we have who are Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander descent. NAIDOC week and NAIDOC celebrations are pretty significant. We get the community in. The first 2 periods of the day are going to be as normal. After recess, NAIDOC celebrations will start. There's going to be, I really don't know, I haven't been a part of any of the planning apart from helping to buy or pay for resources. One of the staff in my staff room is one of the Aboriginal coordinators, very heavily invested in this. The remainder of the day will basically be, I'm assuming, assembly. I don't think it's an assembly event, followed by a lot of other things around barbecue, face painting, hand painting, crafts, sports. It's going to be a big celebration day. Really looking forward to it. Decided to really get into the spirit of it, so including my support of the Polished Man project. Please Google that. I've decided to bring in Aboriginal flag as part of that. Just a little something to show my support, or a little something extra. It's all overcast today. We've had such beautiful weather the last few days. I do believe that this is only meant to be like a morning cloud. I don't think the temperature's meant to be all that warm, because they did say bring your picnic rugs and bring something else to wrap around you because it might be cold outside. I have Year 12 timber today, period 2, And we're going to aim to have that class because we missed out, technically, period 5 yesterday. I know that my staff let the kids in and they sat in with them. Obviously a little limited in what they could do. If they needed anything cut on the saw, I needed to be there. So I told them on Google Classroom we would try and aim for a lesson today, and the principal and the other deputy said that sounds good. First real heavy fog day we've had this year. I think there was a lightish fog day a couple of weeks ago, but this is like the first heavy fog morning. Coming down the mountain, got to the curve just before you get to the last hill, and all you could see was a thick white fog covering the whole Sydney Basin. It looks great from up in the mountains, not so great from down here. Yesterday's NAIDOC assembly was fantastic. Seeing the kids perform, the primary school kids came up and performed. There was a small dance troupe that came, which was a lady and her two daughters. They did a few dances, and then there was stalls set up from local Indigenous groups, as well as the PCYC, Defence Force, a local artist, arts and crafts and sports, and everything in the afternoon. It was a great afternoon. We used to do it almost like a formal assembly. Now we go out the back in the grassed area, and it's almost like a little natural amphitheatre, and they have a large sand circle, which is where all the performances happen. Yeah, one of those things that make you proud of the school and proud of the kids that took part. I had 12 Timber yesterday, the one who was doing a wall shelf. Her project is essentially finished, so now she's just got to pick up the folio and everything. The other girl who's doing a little side table, getting her pieces trimmed, ready to put them together. She's a very slow and methodical worker, and we made a discovery though. She didn't take into account grain direction so much with parts of her project, so being that it's not a big project, I don't think it'll be as big a deal as it might be if it was a lot larger. We'll definitely see how that all goes. One of the other guys who's making a jewellery box used the thickness to get all his parts down to size, and he got them spot on the thickness he wanted. He's thinking of doing box joints for the corners, wants to hand cut them, but he's going to use the bandsaw because the thickness that he's taken the timber down to, we'd have to get a specific router bit, but then we don't have a guide for it. He wants to do it hand cut, and I think as long as he works to the right side of his lines, he'll get it done. Friday afternoon, class is done. I ended up being able to have the double period with Year 12 this afternoon, before and after lunch. We've got 2 panel doors glued up, another one over there ready to have all the joints cut. They've got to still do their domino cuts. Or did they do them? No, they've still got to cut their dominoes. But these ones have done theirs, they're glued up, and they're going to go out into those door jambs. These pieces we'll probably just put some little bits of plywood, or so we'll have to use the router, route out a panel gap in the back, a rebate I should say, panel gap. God. Pretty sure I've got some hinges down in the storeroom so that they can hang them, and then that'll be that unit done, apart from the paperwork they've got to do. And then the last thing is project, which they're going to do a soft fall area with some little retaining wall stuff around some of the gym equipment down in the back of the playground. I'll go back to the office, see what emails I've got and paperwork sort out before I leave.